This is a film study video on Minnesota Vikings outside corner Isaiah Rodgers, who's had a number of impact plays through 5 weeks of the NFL season for Brian Flores' defense, including a blocked field goal against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 4. I'll display some of his coverage film later on in this video. Initially, we're going to focus on his ability to make impact plays on defense and special teams. Two of his unbelievable series of plays in Week 3 against the Bengals. This is first quarter. Minnesota's already up 7-0. Generally, we'll spot shadow Rodgers pre-snap in yellow. Oh, by the way, this blue line illustrates where the boundary is. In this case, the ball is on the right hash. So the boundary or short side of the field is down here at the bottom of the screen. The field or wide side is to the top. It's eventually going to be a pass deflected by Harrison Smith, the boundary side safety, as Minnesota is really rolling to a cover 2. Cincinnati running kind of a pseudo smash concept. He is the cover 2 corner. I don't know what Isaiah Rodgers' reputation is prior to 2025. It's one of the things about my channel. I don't really get to necessarily cover every team in the NFL. I really focus on Ravens, Lions, and then sometimes Seahawks content. To me, he looks like an excellent cover 2 corner. Keeps his depth, stays basically in between routes. I'm talking about this running back route and this tight end route. In fact, the quarterback has since moved off of that read totally to the bottom side of our screen. He'll come back to it a little bit later. Rodgers, again, is staying in between those routes. Quarterback trying to get the football to Chase Brown. And because of the deflection by Harrison Smith, he's going to be able to control the football quickly and then, as an athlete, get a third point of contact on the ground and accelerate for a long touchdown return on the pick. As an aside, Minnesota turns defense to offense as quick as pretty much anyone in the NFL, in my opinion. You can see, and they're really good at, in my opinion, not executing blocks that are going to become a penalty in the modern game of football at this point in time. I think he was already playing well in weeks 1 and 2, and then this game against the Bengals really started an avalanche of impact plays. Here's another one that's almost kind of magical. 1st and 10 as the score has been swelled to 17-3. It's a unique 12 personnel grouping in that the Bengals have a tight end in the backfield and a running back, Chase Brown, split out wide. Basically a little boundary side screen being executed with Chase Brown blocking on the outside linebacker / defensive end. Ball already out from Jake Browning. And then watch what Rodgers does. I had to watch this multiple times. He almost at this point in time reminds me of like a combat sports athlete whereby you're watching a fight, whether it's MMA or boxing, and you blink and you really miss a counter or you miss a shot and you don't really understand what you just saw. Maybe you have to see it in slow motion between rounds or once the fight is over. This play in particular is what I'm talking about. I'll give you the end zone view of it here in a moment. And by the way, he takes this one back to the house if you didn't know already. Again, they turn defense into offense so quickly. Credit to Browning here. He's obviously trying to draw a penalty, so it's a smart move by the quarterback trying to draw a penalty on Metellus for a block in the back. I don't actually think it's a block in the back. I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see what I'm talking about. Rodgers was really just getting started in this game. Same play from the end zone angle, tight end. 2 tight ends on the field, in fact, with the ball on the right hash. Chase Brown is set up to the boundary. He'll be the lead blocker on the screen. These mug looks are very typical in this day and age. Really, this is not what Minnesota is trying to get done here. I definitely will be conducting a Brian Flores defense film study in the offseason, which will essentially be labeled inside the coverage. So it's almost a double pick on the center, which is very unique if you ask me. He's holding the center up while the inside linebacker Pace is violently engaging the center's hip and midsection, knocking him off balance totally, such that the defensive tackle can try to get through to the quarterback. Just an added layer, if you ask me, of how violent Minnesota is and some of the things that they do. Chase Brown on the lead block, and watch how Rodgers gets this done. It's so quick. I didn't even realize until the 3rd or 4th time I watched it that he reached his arm across, and you'll actually see Rodgers' glove flash on the football to knock it out of Noah Fant's hands. Keep in mind, I'm slowing this down, obviously, which doesn't do it justice. Rodgers is a savant, at least in 2025, at turning the football over and instant recognition by his teammates. It's borderline sorcery the way that Rodgers was able to turn some of this stuff into defensive touchdowns. Again, Browning trying to draw a penalty, in my opinion, because he recognized, he wasn't going to catch Rodgers. It was going to be the second defensive touchdown. So he's really trying to draw a penalty on Metellus. Didn't work. The refs didn't fall for it. Vikings take a 24-3 lead. As impressive as those two plays were, and defensive touchdowns obviously are a huge swing factor, on the next possession, I think this one might be even more so. It's a forced fumble by Rodgers, who again is spot shadowed in yellow, on Bengals star wide receiver Jamar Chase. Higgins is going to go in motion, basically run a deeper out concept. Chase is going to basically turn to the outside and sit near the top of the numbers. Another kind of cover two technique by Rodgers here, basically sitting in the flats, trying to stay between these two routes. Browning kind of scrambles, and you can see that Rodgers has his eye on him at the same time that Browning is looking to either get the ball to Chase or throw it over the top to Higgins. I love that he's got the patience and understanding of what's behind him, meaning there's got to be a route behind me if Chase is sitting in front of me. Exquisite cover two technique, in my opinion, is one of the things that I notice in the Rodgers film. This play, why do I think it's so impressive? Because of the burst and the acceleration. Refusal to not be involved in the play. Jamar Chase is as top-of-the-line athlete in the NFL or any level of professional sports, for that matter, and he gets the ball punched out by Rodgers in a violent fashion. He's the perfect player for a Brian Flores defense, in that when he gets the ball nearby, he's going to make a play, at least so far in the 2025 season. I had film of Rodgers from his time spent in Philadelphia, and I didn't see the same quality of play in terms of coverage, awareness, certainly in cover two, nor ball skills and or ability to punch the football out. But so far, he's been a star in Minnesota. Here's the end zone angle of the same play with the ball on the left hash. Motion across by Higgins creates a 2-by-2 set. Browning initially is looking to that side. You understood with the concept that was there. The high out or deeper out concept by Higgins, and the short little sit to the top of the numbers by Chase. Browning's kind of pressured, moves out of the pocket, and then here is Chase sitting at the top of the numbers with, I believe, Metellus trying to stay on the inside hip. Browning throws it across as Metellus flashes to basically be the secondary contain. Watch the burst in the closing speed by Rodgers. Not just getting to the football, but finishing in a violent manner, knocking the football out. 2 forced fumbles in this game, 2 defensive touchdowns. I just think he's got great understanding of what is needed in each situation. Very sudden athlete, but also very smooth, in particular in zone coverage. I don't know his historical reputation, as I said earlier, but to me, he looks like a guy who excels in zone coverage and then either being able to break on the football as it's thrown or get involved in the tackle. Earlier in the game, in fact, this is when Minnesota is up 17-0. Just wanted to illustrate some of his coverage skills before we talk about the blocked field goal against the Steelers. It's a 3rd and 8, and basically you got a 2-on-2 with Chase and Higgins, Cincinnati's best 2 wide receivers, against Murphy and Rodgers, their best 2 cover corners. Higgins is going to take this route deep against Rodgers, and he's all over it. I just love how he's got his back to the sideline and then eyes into the quarterback so he understands, A, the route that he's getting, and then B, that the quarterback, Browning's getting rid of the football as quick as possible to avoid the rush. And then he makes a fantastic play here on a quick, deeper route. Great timing to get up and deflect the football. Basically a jump ball situation, recognizing, okay, I'm not going to try to pick this off. I'm just going to swat this away from Higgins so he can't make a play on the ball either. Clearly, he was Defensive Player of the Week for Week 3. I do want to talk about his coverage skills a little bit. We will cover this block kick against the Steelers. Rodgers just has incredible confidence in his athletic ability, great eyes on defense and on special teams. This will be the block kick against the Steelers. It's in the second quarter when Pittsburgh has a 14-3 lead. Watch when Rodgers elevates his hips and picks his knee up off the ground, it lines up and is synchronized perfectly with the holder. So this is scouting preparation, if you ask me. Was it done by Rodgers? Was it done by his coaches? I don't know, but I want to replay this multiple times. Try to pay attention to the head turn of the holder and how that lines up with Rodgers picking up his knee and then looking into the ball. As soon as the holder turns his head, that's when Rodgers picks his hip up, picks his knee up, and now he knows the timing in an exquisite manner. Very detailed preparation, if you ask me, not being lazy by having his knee on the ground. That was all designed to get timed up with the snap. They had probably sat and watched film of Pittsburgh snaps on field goals, and Rodgers knew exactly when to execute his stance, get in a track stance, basically get his cleats in the ground and get prepared to explode to try to block the kick. 7 Vikings are aligned to the right-hand side, well, 6, and then 7 if you with Rodgers on the outside. So they're just really overwhelming Pittsburgh at the point of attack here. Great eyes right on the holder's helmet and face mask, and as soon as that turns, that's when Rodgers picks his hips up and gets ready to explode. Just a really complete football player, in my opinion, prepared for every situation. Of course, the Steelers won the game 24-21. I do want to show or display some of his coverage snaps just to give the idea that I respect his coverage ability as well. Now, this is actually a catch that I think probably technically gets applied to him. It's a 3rd and 5, one of the better throws and better catches from the 2025 season so far, from Caleb Williams to Romeo Odunze. 3rd and 5, like I said, Odunze is running his route all the way across the field. You got basically a clear out to that side with DJ Moore running underneath. And then I think it's Zacchaeus with a secondary or shake slant to the inside. That's definitely where Caleb Williams was looking at first. Great coverage relationship by Rodgers on Odunze all the way across the field. Unfortunately, as Williams escapes here, Odunze will execute a nice little veteran move, if you ask me. He'll kind of veer his route off towards the end zone, and that essentially causes their feet to get tangled up and Rodgers to trip over Odunze, who makes a spectacular catch on a laser of a football from Caleb Williams along the right sideline. One of the better throws this year, like I said. Rodgers in good relationship before he fell down. Another cover 2 dynamic here earlier in the first quarter on a 2nd and 10. And the route concept is going to be, I think, Zacchaeus on a little sit-down route, and then DJ Moore over the top. Very similar to what the Bengals executed, where Jake Browning was able to get the completion to Chase before Rodgers forced a fumble. You can see that he's dangerously aware of the routes, even when the quarterback is looking in the opposite direction, like Caleb Williams is looking to the top side of our screen. I think that he's got a great idea of the way that I think he's got a great preparation in terms of scouting, very intelligent in zone, but to me looks intimately prepared for each route combination that elicits, especially from a stacked twins alignment like this one. Watch him attempt or think about coming down on the Zacchaeus route as Caleb Williams begins to look back to his side. Chooses not to because I think he understands he's got a route over the top of him in DJ Moore. Not just intelligent and very smart in zone, but also violent as hell on the finish. Upends the tight end on a route that emanated from the other side of the field. To me, it seems like Isaiah Rodgers is a guy who just does everything really well. I had 2 games of film. I didn't necessarily watch the Steelers game in full from a coverage standpoint. Really, the Bengals and the Bears. Actually, the Falcons game as well. But full-length game film is what I usually get, and then I cut it up. So I really only cut up the Bears and Bengals film. That's why the coverage snaps were really limited in terms of what I showed. I think he's got a great ability to sit in zone defense and diagnose plays. He did play a lot later in the season for the Eagles. I think he played 55 or 54 snaps in the Eagles' 28-22 win over the Rams in the divisional round. I think he had 2 passes defensed and a fumble recovery for like a 38 or a 40-yard return. Interestingly, only played 8 snaps in the Super Bowl victory over the Chiefs. In the film from Minnesota, at least from what I've seen, a complete corner who's playing exceptional football right now. I think the Vikings system under Brian Flores looks complicated to regular people like us. But Rodgers, who's now, I believe, on his 3rd team, started with the Colts and then the Eagles, he's been integrated quickly. He seems to have a unique understanding of what the Flores defensive calls require on each individual snap. He's playing almost every snap, in fact, on defense, fitting in perfectly so far. Really fun player to watch film of. I have an independent perspective because I'm not a Vikings fan. Separate from interceptions and forced fumbles, I think he's playing really well in coverage. I do hope to do a large-scale film study on the Brian Flores defense in the offseason, wherever he ends up or if he stays in Minnesota. In any case, this is my film study look at Isaiah Rodgers, someone who I think should be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year if he continues this type of torrid start to 2025. Appreciate you guys' time.